Okay, so just finished TakeOver Chicago. So we'll go through the matches pretty quickly. The nice thing about TakeOver is there's only five matches. Comparing this one to last year's, they had definitely some better builds, but I think they're with them doing more takeovers. They don't have as much time to really truly build into the matches. So you're in for some pretty good matches for NXT next Wednesday, which will be pretty good. So we began with the tag team match. Ironically, not a tremendously great build. You could tell they probably wanted to have Mustache Mountain instead feud against the Undisputed Era, but they got injured, so we got Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch instead. And wow, this match was fantastic. Seeing Oni Lorcan get tossed off the top rope, hit the apron, which of course is the hardest part of the ring, and then end up bouncing himself onto the ground and then still getting in for a finisher in the spot where they both had the Undisputed Era in different submission holds, and they fought their way out. That was fantastic. Man, Kyle O'Reilly, even if the match had with Pete Dunne, him with Roderick Strong and two other guys who were just great workers, and Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch, it was a fantastic match. So good. Really got the crowd pumped. And of course, the Undisputed Era retained. It's weird when they're the heels, but they're undeniably loved by the Chicago crowd. It's a fantastic match, great opener. And then we go into, well, I say that's probably the best tag match of the weekend. And then we had Ricochet taking on Velveteen Dream. Dream coming down as Hogan, doing some Hogan mannerisms. Great. Oh, they did some fantastic work in this. I liked seeing Ricochet doing some Velveteen Dream moves. Trying to see Ricochet going for all these insane moves. You know, he is very much like watching Spider-Man in the flesh. Absolutely amazing worker. And you pair him up with the charismatic ability of Velveteen Dream, who has the amazing ability to actually make other people look significantly better in the ring. He brings out a whole different level from someone else, and he looks fantastic. Even in losing, taking the 630 senton to the back, still looked fantastic. And I think about 394 days so to be TakeOver Chicago, even with Velveteen Dream really debuted, and he is in a little over a year become easily one of the best workers that they've got in NXT, easily. And there's some, I guess those two guys going again with a title on the line. Amazing match. And of course, it was one of the matches that everyone thought would steal the show, and it did a fantastic job. So great job on just keeping the crowd incredibly hot for the first two matches. And I felt really sorry for whoever was going to come up next. It ended up being Baszler and Nikki Cross, which had about 2 weeks of build-up. Nikki Cross did a good job, very strong character, wanting to be attacked by Shayna Baszler, not being afraid of her. This is also the first time Baszler got to work a match where she wasn't working, against an opponent who was truly afraid of her. And not a bad match, but I think you're put after the two previous matches. It's a hard spot to follow up on. Nikki kind of smiling as she ended up being effectively put to sleep. It worked. It worked well. But the weird thing is with that division now, since they have lost the four horsewomen, Ruby Riott, as well as Ember Moon, it's definitely in a rebuilding phase. I think that putting the belt on Baszler makes the most sense. She can do a really fantastic job being the heel and being dominant, but she needs that extra something. And I think with the character work building, it makes sense to put the title on her. Plus, she's currently probably one of the most dominant women that they've got in that division until they start rebuilding other people. And then we went into the other championship match. Aleister Black, Lars Sullivan. Similar to the last one, only had a couple weeks of build-up for it. And Aleister Black, solid in-ring worker, great character. I'm looking forward to seeing him on the main roster having matches with Seth Rollins or Finn Balor, so two guys who could just throw lots of wicked kicks at each other. taking on Lars Sullivan, who's still on the green side and doesn't have a tremendous amount of depth to his repertoire. It got kind of slow and awkward. And of course, there was a botched black mass. I don't put that on Aleister Black. I think he was in the right spot, but I think Lars Sullivan, just given his size, was just a little bit out of range. But Black retained. EC3 was in the crowd watching that match. Be unique to see where Aleister Black goes next. And then we had the Chicago street fight. If you've never seen a street fight live, they're not as much fun to watch because you really can't tell what's going on half the time. The screens would cut out, so we couldn't see what they were doing outside the ring. And they only did the screens up top. They didn't have the giant Tron on for a lot of it. They did it for some spots. So if you couldn't see them from where you were sitting, you kind of stared up at this little spot in the ceiling through a scaffolding and watched the match. Nice amount of callbacks to it, but the problem is when you just did an unsanctioned match, which had almost a year to do callbacks from, when you try to do the next match, which is very similar to it, you have less material to call back from. Even though watching Ciampa walk Gargano up, doing the callback from TakeOver Chicago last year was good. Having Gargano sitting on top of the cases, looking down upon the beaten body of Ciampa as he was being rolled away, was reminiscent of what we saw on NXT, which was good. Ciampa throwing Gargano's ring into the crowd, and then Gargano just beating the daylights even more out of Ciampa. I thought it was good. I thought it worked. It worked very well. The weird thing was then once they started having all the people come down and pulling everyone off each other, is then all of a sudden we've got Ciampa handcuffed and he's tapping out, but the refs aren't doing anything because they're trying to effectively stop the match. And then we get a DDT, DDT and Gargano onto the exposed ring. And they yell at the ref to count, and the ref counted 1, 2, 3, and Ciampa being victorious. It just felt like it was booked kind of odd. Now, if moving forward, they decide to put Gargano on the back burner for a little bit, which would be fine. If they were to then transition to Ciampa taking on Aleister Black, and then potentially Ciampa beating Black, and then the rubber match between, this was their third match, but they were friends the first time. If the rubber match were to be probably not Brooklyn, I could almost maybe like Survivor Series weekend, which would probably be their next big takeover. If that's what they wanted, or of course they could do it in Brooklyn, because why not try to do it in Brooklyn? Seeing Ciampa, Gargano for the title. But I don't know what sort of match you would go from. You've already done an unsanctioned, which I guess technically doesn't count. So you would actually have Gargano, who won in the Cruiserweight Championship, and then with this match being your second official match, you would have Ciampa victorious. Maybe their third match could be for the title.